Welcome back to Living in Awareness. It is truly a joy to meet you again in this peaceful and meaningful space. Living in Awareness is not just a channel for sharing content, but a place where you and I can walk together on the path of mindfulness, nurturing understanding and compassion in every moment of daily life. On this journey, we will explore and practice the profound teachings of the Buddha, timeless wisdom that has guided countless generations, helping people recognize the nature of suffering and discover the path of liberation. Here, you will encounter lessons on right mindfulness, right thought, right speech, and many other aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, the way leading to inner peace and freedom. Living in Awareness is not about Buddhism as a religion alone, it is about Buddhism as an art of living. Every message here is meant to help you return to yourself, to live fully in the present moment, and to find serenity amidst the busyness of everyday life. By following this channel, you are not just gaining knowledge, but also embracing an opportunity to experience and practice. The podcasts and heartfelt sharings you will find here are like small lamps, gently lighting up your journey. Each story and each teaching can become a seed, nourishing your heart with understanding, love, and freedom. I truly believe that if you patiently follow and practice alongside this channel, you will find treasures beyond measure, not only peace, but also a deep transformation in the way you see yourself, others, and the world. Living in Awareness is a reminder that life can be profoundly beautiful and meaningful when we know how to pause, breathe, smile, and live with mindfulness. May you find moments of true peace and inspiration as you accompany us here. And remember, your presence, your listening, is the greatest gift that allows this channel to continue spreading the spirit of awareness to more and more people. In our modern lives, we are often surrounded by countless thoughts. From the moment we wake up, the mind is already busy with worries about work, money, and responsibilities. By noon, it is caught in stress, relationships, success, or failure. At night, it continues to wander into the uncertainties of tomorrow. These endless streams of thought sweep us away, leaving us exhausted, restless, and sometimes even disconnected from ourselves. Amidst all of this, the Buddha's teachings from more than 2,500 years ago still shine as a guiding light. If we wish to live a life of peace and happiness, we must learn how to think rightly. For every action, every word, and every decision in life begins with a thought. Wrong thinking leads us down the wrong path. Right thinking illuminates the mind, bringing stability and freedom into our lives. In the Noble Eightfold Path, the path of 8 factors leading to liberation, the Buddha placed right thought immediately after right view. This placement carries a profound meaning. First, we must see reality clearly, right view, and then we can direct our thinking correctly, right thought. To see rightly and to think rightly form the foundation for speaking rightly, acting rightly, and living rightly. Right thought is not simply about positive thinking, as people often say. It is a deep transformation of the mind, a turning away from desire, ill will, and harmful intentions. It is the cultivation of kindness, compassion, letting go, and true understanding. In this podcast, we will explore together the Buddha's teachings on right thought, from its essential meaning to its practical applications in daily life. With each reflection, may you discover the way to master your thoughts, to transform suffering, and to live freely and peacefully amidst the ever-changing flow of the world. The meaning of right thought. In daily life, when we hear the word thought, we often think of mental activity such as analyzing, calculating, or planning. But in the Buddha's teachings, thought carries a much deeper meaning. It is not only the function of the intellect, but also the orientation of the mind, the direction in which our consciousness is moving. To illustrate, we can imagine this. Right view is like the eyes that see the path, while right thought is like the decision to choose which direction to walk. Seeing clearly is not enough. We must also think rightly in order to walk rightly. A person may have wisdom and insight, but if their mind is still filled with desire, anger, or harmful intentions, their actions may still lead to suffering. On the other hand, when one's thoughts are right, pure, and wholesome, then speech, action, and the entire way of life naturally become peaceful and compassionate. In the scriptures, the Buddha drew a clear distinction between right thought and wrong thought. Wrong thought arises when the mind is dominated by craving, ill will, and false views. It is when we allow ourselves to be driven by the pursuit of sensual pleasures, by the fire of resentment, or by the wish to cause harm. Such thoughts are like flames that burn the heart. The more we feed them, the more restless and tangled our lives become. Right thought, on the other hand, turns in the opposite direction. It is the cultivation of thoughts that move toward renunciation, toward loving kindness, and toward harmlessness. It is when the mind turns away from desire, releases anger, and extinguishes the intention to harm. These kinds of thoughts are like refreshing rains, nourishing peace and bringing clarity into life. Thus, right thought is essentially an inner choice. Which thoughts do we choose to cultivate? Do we follow the path of greed, hatred, and delusion, or the path of compassion, kindness, and wisdom? Every day, every hour, every moment, we are making this choice. And the outcome of our lives is nothing more than the sum of countless such small choices. So when the Buddha spoke of right thought, he was not merely telling us to think positively in the ordinary sense. He was pointing to a principle of living, to return to the mind, to recognize unwholesome thoughts as they arise, to transform them, and to replace them with wholesome ones. This is an essential step on the path of awakening and liberation. The three aspects of right thought. In the scriptures, the Buddha explained that right thought is expressed through three essential aspects: thoughts of renunciation, thoughts of non-ill will, thoughts of harmlessness. These three directions are like doors that open the mind to freedom and peace. 1. Thoughts of renunciation. Renunciation means turning away from attachment to sensual desire and pleasure. The Buddha did not deny that human beings have natural needs, but he clearly pointed out, when the mind endlessly chases after craving, suffering will surely follow. Right thought of renunciation does not mean rejecting life or refusing joy, but rather seeing the impermanent nature of all pleasures. With this insight, we are no longer bound, no longer living as slaves to desire. A person who cultivates this thought learns simplicity, lets go of endless demands, and nourishes a life of calm and ease. 2. Thoughts of non-ill will. Hatred is a fire that destroys happiness, both our own and that of others. A single word of anger can shatter a relationship. An action driven by resentment can leave scars that last for years. Right thought of non-ill will is the practice of looking deeply within, recognizing the seeds of irritation, and preventing them from turning into harmful speech or action. When the mind returns to compassion, we begin to see that the other person is not an enemy, but simply another being who suffers, just like us. In that moment, anger dissolves, and love begins to grow. This is the transformative power of right thought. 3. Thoughts of harmlessness. In the depth of ignorance, the human mind may give rise to the desire to harm, to satisfy the ego. Sometimes this does not come from outright malice, but from indifference, from the habit of putting our own interests above everything else. Right thought of harmlessness is the turning away from every intention that causes harm to life. It opens a vast space in the heart for kindness and compassion. When one cultivates harmlessness, one naturally learns to respect all forms of life, human and non-human. Trees, rivers, even the birds flying across the sky. These three aspects are not distant theories, but a compass for every moment of life. Whenever a thought arises, we may ask ourselves, does this thought carry desire? Does it contain anger? Does it hide the intention to harm? If yes, let it go. If not, nurture it and let it grow. Right thought, then, is the art of mastering life at its very root, the root being the thoughts of the mind. And when the root is pure, the branches, leaves, and fruits of life will naturally be wholesome, peaceful, and full of joy. Applying right thought in daily life. The Buddha's teachings were never meant to remain only in temples or scriptures. His Dharma, including right thought, is for us to bring into every moment of daily life. When we practice, we see that right thought is not distant, it is present in the way we look, the way we think, and the way we respond to whatever arises. 1. Within the family. The family is where our true thoughts are revealed most clearly. A careless word can wound a loved one. A single angry thought can turn into conflict. By practicing right thought, we learn to see our family members with eyes of understanding and love. When disagreements arise, instead of feeding thoughts of blame, we can direct the mind toward empathy. They are tired too. Or, they also carry their own suffering. Such thoughts prevent love from turning into resentment, and instead nurture lasting connection. 2. At work. The workplace is often full of competition and pressure. If the mind is occupied only with personal gain, ambition, and comparison, stress and insecurity easily follow. Here, applying right thought means asking ourselves, will this cause harm to anyone? Does this thought nourish goodness? When we direct our thoughts toward cooperation, collective well-being, and healthy growth, work no longer feels like a burden but becomes an opportunity to serve and to grow. 3. In social relationships. Life in society, with all its diversity, naturally brings conflict. At times, we may be misunderstood, judged, or treated unfairly. In such moments, the mind easily turns to resentment and blame. Right thought reminds us to pause, to observe, and to transform. We can replace thoughts of hatred with thoughts of compassion. That person acts this way because they too are suffering. This shift in thought not only preserves our inner peace but also opens the door to healing and to building deeper, more genuine connections. 4. Toward ourselves. Most importantly, right thought applies not only to others, but also to ourselves. Sometimes, we are our own harshest critics. Thoughts like, I am useless, or I don't deserve happiness, can diminish our sense of worth and drag us into despair. Practicing right thought means nurturing wholesome thoughts such as, I am on a journey of learning. I have the capacity to transform. I am worthy of love. In this way, we become our own kindest and most supportive companions. Applying right thought does not mean forcing ourselves to think differently. It means recognizing the flow of thought, letting go of the unwholesome, and choosing to nurture the wholesome. This process requires patience, but with each effort, we plant a seed of peace in the heart. One day, those seeds will bloom, bringing beauty not only to our own lives but also to the lives of those around us. Right thought and the transformation of suffering. In life, suffering seems to be something no one can avoid. We suffer from loss, from being misunderstood, from unfulfilled desires. Many times, suffering does not come from external events, but from the way we think, the way we perceive situations. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering lies in greed, anger, and ignorance within each person. When our thoughts are driven by craving, hatred, or delusion, suffering only deepens. On the other hand, when we cultivate right thought, thoughts based on compassion, letting go, and wisdom, suffering begins to transform. Take a moment to look at your own suffering. Instead of blaming yourself or others, you may ask, what can I learn from this situation? Can I see it with eyes of understanding instead of resentment? At the very moment you shift your way of thinking, your heart feels less burdened, and suffering loses much of its weight. Right thought does not mean running away from suffering. It means facing it directly with an open mind. Through this, we gradually realize that suffering, too, has its place. It reminds us to return to mindfulness, to live more consciously, and to love more deeply. When the mind learns to filter and to hold on to wholesome thoughts while letting go of negative ones, the path of liberation begins to unfold. At that point, suffering is no longer a burden, but a silent teacher guiding us toward peace and freedom. Obstacles to right thought. Right thought is one of the 8 essential factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Yet practicing and sustaining it is not always easy. In daily life, we often encounter many obstacles that prevent the mind from dwelling in wholesome and correct thinking. Understanding these obstacles is the first step to recognizing and overcoming them. 1. Desire, attachment to pleasure. Desire constantly pulls the mind toward comfort, convenience, and sensual enjoyment. When the mind is ruled by desire, thoughts are easily distorted. We no longer think to seek truth or to cultivate compassion, but only to satisfy the cravings of the ego. This is one of the greatest obstacles to right thought. 2. Anger, the fire that burns away clarity. When the mind is filled with anger, it becomes nearly impossible to see things fairly. Thought is then clouded by the urge to retaliate, judge, or exclude others. Right thought cannot exist in the flames of anger, for it only leads to more suffering and conflict. 3. Ignorance, the lack of true understanding. Without wisdom and right understanding, thought easily falls into error. We may cling to false views, chase after superstition, or form judgments based on prejudice. Ignorance is like a thick fog that blocks the light, preventing right thought from shining forth. 4. Habitual negative thinking. Many people are accustomed to nurturing streams of thought rooted in worry, self-blame, or pessimism. Over time, these patterns become mental ruts. Each time they face a problem, they immediately fall into cycles of anxiety and sorrow. This habitual negativity is a major obstacle, leaving little space for right thought to grow. 5. Influence of environment and society. All around us flows an endless stream of information from media, social networks, and the people we spend time with. Without mindfulness, we can easily be swept into negativity, allowing public opinion to shape our thinking rather than wisdom. An unwholesome environment or unwise companions weaken our ability to practice right thought. 6. Restlessness and lack of mindfulness. In modern life, we often live at a fast pace, rushing from one task to another, rarely pausing to observe the mind. This hurriedness causes us to react instead of reflect, to follow instinct instead of thoughtful clarity. Without mindfulness, right thought cannot take root. These obstacles are not presented to make us despair, but to help us recognize the path more clearly. For only when we know what we are facing can we find the way through. Just like a traveler in the forest, if they know where the pits and thorns lie, they can walk carefully and safely toward their destination. Methods for cultivating right thought. Once we recognize the obstacles to right thought, the next step is to find ways to nurture and develop it in daily life. The Buddha did not merely point out difficulties, he also gave us practical tools to transform the mind. 1. Cultivating right view is the foundation. Right view is the foundation for right thought. If our perception is distorted, our thinking will inevitably be misguided. Therefore, we must first study the Dharma, listen, and reflect to see clearly the truths of impermanence, non-self, and cause and effect. With this understanding, right thought naturally arises, free from illusion and attachment. 2. Practicing mindfulness in every thought. Mindfulness is like a lamp that illuminates each thought as it arises. Whenever a thought appears, we can pause and ask, is this thought wholesome or unwholesome? Does it lead to peace or to suffering? Through mindfulness, we learn to release unwholesome thoughts and nurture those that are wholesome. 3. Cultivating compassion and equanimity. One of the strongest ways to develop right thought is through the practice of compassion and letting go. When we generate loving kindness, wishing happiness and peace for all beings, anger has no ground to take root. When we practice equanimity, releasing attachment and clinging, desire loses its power. Compassion and letting go become the energy that sustains right thought. 4. Practicing meditation. Meditation calms the mind, making it clear and less disturbed by distractions. In meditation, we observe our thoughts with objectivity, without rushing to follow them. This inner clarity allows us to choose and cultivate right thought, rather than being swept away by unwholesome thinking. 5. Associating with wise companions. Our environment and companions greatly shape the way we think. If we spend time with people full of greed, anger, and delusion, our own minds will inevitably be influenced. But when we draw near to teachers, wise friends, and those who live wholesomely, we receive support and reminders that help us strengthen right thought. 6. Learning to let go and self-reflect. Sometimes, cultivating right thought is not about doing more, but about letting go of comparison and rivalry, letting go of attachment to the ego, letting go of habitual negative thinking. At the same time, we must reflect on ourselves, examining the motives behind our thoughts. Are they driven by greed, anger, and ignorance, or are they rooted in compassion and wisdom? Conclusion of methods. Nurturing right thought is not something achieved in a single day, but a lifelong journey. Each time we adjust a thought, each moment we pause to observe and transform, we take a step forward on the path of liberation. Just as a farmer patiently plants seeds and cares for the field, we too patiently sow and nurture right thought to harvest the fruits of peace and freedom. Conclusion and final message. Through our journey, exploring the meaning, the role, the manifestations, the obstacles, and the methods of practice, we can now clearly see that right thought is not something distant, but a choice within every single stream of our thinking. The Buddha taught that every action, every word, and every karmic result begins with thought. If thought is grounded in right view, nourished by compassion and wisdom, it will lead us to happiness, peace, and liberation. On the other hand, if thought is driven by greed, anger, and delusion, it will inevitably drag us into cycles of endless suffering. What is essential to remember is that right thought is not an abstract concept, but a living practice in every moment. Right now, we can pause and ask ourselves, does this thought bring peace or suffering? Does it arise from greed, anger, and delusion, or from compassion and wisdom? By practicing this simple reflection each day, we are already planting seeds of mindfulness within, gradually transforming our thinking into right thought. Dear friends, the journey to peace does not lie somewhere far away. It begins in the very depths of your own mind. If you wish to live a light and joyful life, start by learning how to think rightly. And as you cultivate right thought, you will discover that life becomes clearer, more open, and filled with love. Before we close today's podcast, I would like to leave you with a message. Cherish every small thought in your mind, for they are the seeds that create your future. If this episode has brought you peace and inspiration, please subscribe to the channel so we can continue walking together on the path of the Dharma, and share it with others who may also be seeking inner peace. May you always remain steady, peaceful, and wise on your journey of cultivating right thought.